Once again, thank you everybody for joining us for Making Your Tech or Cyber Careers Flourish 2023, hosted by CPF Coaching. My name is Paul Cummings, CEO and founder of Whole Cyber Human Initiative. And today we have a awesome guest. I've used the community very, very much through my transition from retirement into the civilian private sector. And we actually have the man himself, to present to us today. So without further ado, Tom, the floor is yours.
All right. Well, first, good morning, afternoon, everybody. And Paul and Chris, thank you so much for having me on. It's really just my pleasure to take some time and speak here and give back just a little bit of my time to share with you my successes and failures as I've come through my own military transition and really career change into cybersecurity. Let me share my screen. I do have a few slides that'll hit on some talking points, but really, throw your questions in the chat. If you could preface them with a Q, just so I can catch them as they come in. I'd love to answer them, and then definitely have time for some Q&A as well. I'm going to preface this. There are a lot of wonderful speakers here that are way more experts on getting into cybersecurity than I am. I've been very fortunate through my career and through my time with VetSec, and I'll touch on all those points, but please tune into all the other speakers as well, because there's some amazing talks, both before and after this. So I'm going to talk just a little bit about owning your military transition, and really this is applicable to anybody getting into cybersecurity, whether you're coming from the military or not. Paul, can everybody see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Cool. Awesome. All right. So a little bit about me. 22 years active duty, U.S. Navy, winding down actually towards retirement right now. I'm also the board chair over at VetSec. VetSec's a 501c3 nonprofit that works to help military veterans trying to find a role in cybersecurity, a meaningful employment role, one that's on par with their skills that they gained and developed while they were on military service. Through my own transition, I've landed a role in the cybersecurity industry myself. I'm a VP at a cybersecurity training firm where we manage training environments to train SOC analysts and cybersecurity incident response teams in a VMware vSphere environment. And I run the training and technology side of the company there. I'm also married, 4 kids, 2 grandchildren. A big fan of hiking and backpacking up in the Pacific Northwest, which is where I'm at, the greater Seattle area, and a myriad of cybersecurity certifications, mostly around CompTIA. I am a Western Governors University graduate, and I can't speak highly enough about the college there and their ability to develop hands-on competency-based skills. And we'll talk a little bit more about competency-based skills as we go. Also a certified post-secondary instructor, and I have my junior penetration tester cert from eLearn Security back before I&E acquired them. So this talk is really just for transitioning military and veterans, but anybody trying to get into information security and the cybersecurity industry. And Paul, thanks for throwing the links in the chat. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. Hit me with questions anytime. I'm happy to answer them there too. So first, I want to talk through kind of some 10 principles here that go back to owning your destiny. So, if any of you are already connected with me on LinkedIn, you'll see some posts recently about some lower quality, I'll say, training providers that are out there that, in my opinion, and again, this is just the opinion of Tom Marsland, not VetSec, the Navy, or my day job company, but there's some lower quality training providers out there that take advantage of some of the benefits that military members get and that people use, whether it's taking out loans to attend boot camps or using GI Bill funding or using VRNE or vet tech funding. But I want to go back to owning your destiny, right? Everything about getting into the industry, whether you're coming out of the military or you're just looking to move careers, there's a big piece of that the onus is on the individual to take charge of that. So these are 10 things, 10 lessons that were posted out of a speech from a Navy SEAL commander, Admiral McRaven. And I have this actually printed right behind me here on the side of my whiteboard here, and I look at this every day. All of these, I think, apply somewhat to moving into cybersecurity and moving into the industry. So, starting the day with a task completed, laying out what your plan is for the day. And we'll talk a little bit about time and task management, because I think that's a big piece of this. Finding someone to help you through life. So whether it's joining professional networking groups like the Veteran Mentor Group, or Whole Human Cyber, or VetSec, or Operation Code, or any of those other groups, that all goes back to personal networking. Same with respecting everyone and their opinions, right? Despite your best efforts, you're going to run into obstacles, but you have to keep moving forward. Don't give up, and don't be afraid to fail, right? You're going to apply for a lot of jobs, and some of those you're definitely not going to get, right? So keep moving forward and keep trying. The people that apply numerous times, numerous places, keep honing that resume, keep up with the professional networking. You'll find a way in, I promise. And you can read the rest of them here, but this all just goes back to kind of owning your destiny. When I was at my last Navy command, which was a submarine up here in the Northwest, I talked to all my sailors about, the way to succeed in the military was, you're all evaluated against your peers. So look left, look right, see what your peer group's doing, add 5% to that. Don't double that, right? Just add 5%, do just a little bit more. And that's a big piece of how you're going to make your success into the industry. Gregor has a question, and I'll stop here to answer that, but about Western Governors University. So my experience with the material was that it was pretty good. I went through and graduated in 2016, so my opinion is a little dated. I thought the material was good. I thought it did a good job of preparing for the final exams for the courses, which in large part for my program, which was IT security, were certification tests. I didn't have to use a lot of outside material. My mentor was great. I will say that the teachers themselves, right, it's very much more hands-on, go at your own pace. So the teachers were really just kind of facilitating and pointing in the way of resources. So if you're disciplined, I think WGU is a great experience. Getting my bachelor's in IT security enabled me to go after my master's in cyber, which I did on my last shore tour here. And I think both of those combined gave me a much better overview of the industry in the field. I had a lot of applicability from my bachelor's degree. That's where I got my CCNA and my CCNA security, into managing a help desk, which I did at one of my Navy commands, and also dual hatting as their network and systems administrator, replacing their network infrastructure while I was there, and doing a lot of buy down technical debt kind of things. So I can't speak highly enough about WGU. One thing a lot of alums, we don't know on the front end of going into WGU, but alumni from the IT college, I think they're still doing it. Somebody in the chat can correct me if I'm wrong, but they give everyone a lifetime subscription to Pluralsight, and Pluralsight's an awesome training provider. That's alone, I think, a $300 or $400 a year cost. So that alone, like 20 years of Pluralsight after I finished college to, while I'm in the industry, and go to them for learning. It's a great resource, and I highly recommend it. That's it. Thank you for the questions. Please keep throwing them in the chat at me. So first piece, time management. And this I'll speak to the military transition specifically. There's a lot to do, right? When you're coming out of the military, in those last 6 months, that's when a lot of resources open their doors to you, whether it's Onward to Opportunity, or the Institute for Veteran and Military Families, where they'll give you the courseware and the pay for a free certification, right? That's only in your last 180 days. There's some interview travel money that can open up to you that's in your last 180 days. All sorts of things that are all in that last 180, right? In addition to, where am I going to live? How am I going to get a job? If I'm going to a different career field, that's a huge stressor. Do I need to buy a house? Am I going to rent? Oh yeah, and I need to file for VA disability and do my medical appointments and go to the military TAP class and all sorts of things, right? There's all of these things out there. You have to learn and be comfortable with time management. And this is still an area I struggle in. I revolve around checklists. Actually, I'm kind of old fashioned in that regard, but going back to my sheet here, right? I literally write everything down and circle exit off as I do it. But there's some great tools. I will lean on the Google Suite quite a bit because everyone can get a Gmail account. But if you jump into Google Suite, right, I highly recommend before you go to bed at night, writing down the things that you think you need to do the next day and assigning a time block for them. And that way, that, hey, I'm going to start this task at 9. And if I finish it or not, I'm going to stop it at 10. And then I'm going to work on this next thing. You can build a task list in G Suite and you can drag those out and make blocks on your calendar for them. I think that's a great way to do it. There's a couple of ways that you can just make that single click and you can fill up your day with those things, right? Also, there's tons of checklists and timelines out there for when you need to do things, whether it's your, between 180 and 90 days from your end of service, filing for your benefits delivery at discharge from the VA. There's all these things. So find those checklists and lay them out. I'll throw some resources here at the end that you can look at. And yeah, Tom's saying Pluralsight's closer to 500 a year per license now. So again, great resource coming out on the backside of WGU. All sorts of ways you can do this, right? Asana is another way. Notion is another way to just lay out these checklists. You have to be organized about what you're going to try and do because there really is a lot. And that's true whether you're coming from the military or not. I'm going to speak a little bit about my insights from VetSec. And I do really think that they directly apply to anybody that's trying to get in as well. First one I want to talk about is soft skills. So we see, I'd say, a very common theme at VetSec, which again is military members coming out of the military looking to get in cyber. We have 5,500-ish members right now in the VetSec Slack, and I see welcome posts from almost all of them. I leave the Slack up on my left monitor here throughout the day, and I just see the new members joining and introducing themselves. And the things that we see commonly are they know they want to go into cyber, but they don't know really the industry. They don't know what the jobs are. They've heard of job titles, but they don't know specifically what they do and how they do it and what their day is like. Coming specifically out of the military, they don't know how to write a resume. And speak to myself, right? My last job before I joined the military, which I joined at the age of 17, my job before that was McDonald's. 22 years in the Navy, never really had to write a resume. So that's definitely a skill that we see needs help. Professional networking. When you're in the military, you're moving around all the time. So you learn and know faces from people that are everywhere, right? But you don't know how to do that on LinkedIn. You don't know how to do that in the outside world. And we'll talk a little bit about some of those tips as well. And then interview preparation, resumes, networking, interview prep, and educating yourself on the industry. Interview prep, again, you go before boards when you're in the military, but you don't know really the skills required to do interviews and to respond to questions and to lay those out. Like O'Daniel said here, as smart responses and smart goals. So those are kind of the four things that I want to touch on the soft skill side, and then I'll provide some resources on the technical side and my recommendations there as well. So first, educate yourself on the industry. So how do I do that? Almost every single person, I'd say probably 80% of the people that join VetSec think they want to be a penetration tester when they first join. And it takes a lot of, hey, let's talk about what the different disciplines of cyber there are out there, because there's some great ones, right? Going into GRC is a great entry level field where you can take your skills that you've learned across the military background and apply them. Going on to the blue team side, right? And then just looking at where the jobs actually are. So, informational interviews is a great way. Joining organizations where you can talk to people. Whole Human Cyber, Veteran Mentor Network, VetSec, Operation Code. There's a lot of applicability here to cyber that isn't traditional cyber, right? There's the programming side of the house and the software development side. There's a whole field coming up around secure software development, and companies like SafeStack are developing training that specifically market to that niche as well. Maybe I want to audit code and be making sure that software that's hitting the market is secure. So there's a whole group there. And it really revolves around my second point here on the slide, which is networking. So there's some great people out there that are talking right now on LinkedIn about how to build good profiles. VetSec has a course on it. Michael Referzo has a YouTube channel as well, where he's talking about and has a whole series about building a LinkedIn profile. The things I see that are hurting people on their LinkedIn profiles, nobody wants to see a random generated URL. You can customize that with your name. So when you put that on your resume, it shows some due diligence that you know the platform a little bit. And if you look at the top of somebody's LinkedIn where they're putting their about section, you need to say what you want to do. Don't just tell us about yourself, but what are you looking for? What kind of job are you looking to get into? And that'll take some of that education as well. I see a lot where it just says cybersecurity, bar, leader, bar, project manager, bar, veteran, right? And that doesn't tell me enough about what you're actually looking for. And then when you introduce yourself, make meaningful connections. Don't just reach out to somebody and say, hey, do you have time for this, right? Don't start with the ask. Introduce yourself. Tell them why you're connecting with them. Tell them what you'd like to learn, right? And just ease in that way and maintain those connections. And finally, if you're going to post content on LinkedIn, right, engage with other people that are creating content, comment on their things. If you're going to post content that helps, a lot of people I will see will post just their story, which is great. Everyone can learn from everyone else, but also do some research on the industry. And if you find something that you don't think you've seen there recently, post it and share that with everybody. It's all about making a community. That's really what the networking is, right? And that goes back to finding someone to help you through life, right? We all lean on each other. The information security industry is extremely close. It's another thing that I've learned just from my short couple of years, is that it's a very tight industry and people talk and people know each other. My own position in the cybersecurity training industry, I specifically got the interview for the job because of professional networking. The job was posted on LinkedIn, but I found out about the job through my professional network. And that is how I applied for it. And it was because of people I knew and my skills that I managed to land the position as well. So I cannot speak highly enough about professional networking. And Jeff says he often reposts an article he found informative and does a quick write-up about it. Yep, absolutely. And definitely give credit where credit is due. If you find something that's posted by somebody else and you want to share your thoughts on it, give a throwback to the person that shared it. For sure.
Let's talk about meaningful connections, Tom.
Yeah.
So you and I both have probably clocked in in the last year, 700 mentees for transitioning service members.
Easily, yeah.
What's the hard fault on meaningful connections? For me, it's where's that personal invite? Where's that personal note? I don't want to just randomly see a network or my network saying that somebody wants to connect with me, because I mean, it doesn't show context of what you're trying to connect with.
Yeah, exactly. That is exactly what I mean when I'm talking about meaningful connections, is when you reach out to connect to somebody, right? Share a little bit about yourself, make it a little bit more personal. It's not just about what can you do for me, right? When you know a little bit about the person, where they're at, and you reach back and connect a little bit later, thank them for the introductions that they've given you and help on the back end, right? everybody that's asking me for help someday or today, I'm hoping that at some point in the future, when I need help, they'll be willing to do the same for me. Absolutely. Yeah, I would say, Paul, easily 700 people in the past year between the two of us.
And the crazy thing is we know everybody that's had a meaningful connection with us, we still communicate with.
Yeah, absolutely. I talk to people. That's another thing about time management. Thanks for that, Paul. Learn to say no. It is okay to say no. A lot of people, and I'm speaking, to the military crowd here, but I think everybody in cyber has this feeling behind mission accomplishment and wanting to get what they can done. A lot of people say yes too much, and then they're helping everybody else out, and they're not helping themselves. So this is where I go back to using time blocks on your calendar. You have to be willing to say no and prioritize your tasks. And that's another thing that I will say is easier said than done, but it's definitely something. There's too many things to get done in a day. You're never going to clear your list. Let's talk a little bit about interview preparation. So great thing about WGU, and this goes to all colleges. If you're an alumni of a college, you have access to their career services in most cases, as long as you're around. So go ahead and use those references as well, those resources. Nonprofits, there are people there that will take time to help you, whether it's Boots to Books, Whole Human Cyber, VetSec, Operation Code, right? There's tons of great organizations. And if anyone's tuning in from outside of the US, there's some great orgs over there as well. Tech Vets over in the UK is one, Vets in Cyber. And I'm thinking of a third. When I get to my resources at the end, it'll be there. But there's some great tech related nonprofits in the UK, in Australia, and over in Canada as well that can help people get in as well. Big Interview. So this is a subscription-based service, biginterview.com, but for people that are going through some of the Google certs, I have heard that Google is now giving access to Big Interview for a year when they finish those Google certifications. So like the Google IT support or the Google project management. I haven't verified that myself, but that's definitely worth checking out. That's a pretty good service. I have used the service myself before. And also libraries have a lot of resources that you can use for working on doing interview preparation as well. Resumes. So don't make one resume and throw it out to the whole world. Don't, you're gonna, you see the posts on LinkedIn from people who have applied to 350 jobs and haven't been offered a single interview. You have to tailor your resume to the job. Think of your resume as it's really the piece of paper that gets you the interview, right? After that, it's for you to close the deal in the interview, but you have to take everything you've done and lay it out in a master resume. All of the things that are related to the jobs, plural, that you are looking to get into. And this goes back to educating yourself on that industry, right? And then when you find a job that you're interested in, you pare that down. No more than 2 pages. Keep it clean, keep it simple, right? Don't use crazy tables and doing all that. Really, you need bulleted lists of the things that you have accomplished that are directly going to relate to that job. That is the biggest piece of advice I can give on the resume side of the house. And be very, very clear about what you'd like to do and what you've done that supports that, using figures and statistics.
Some extra help. I just shared another one of our veteran alum that's in cybersecurity, Jason Blanchard. He actually has a video I just shared in chat, building resumes using job descriptions. So definitely give that a look over.
Yeah, absolutely. And Cynthia asks if I could talk about if I have a degree in cyber but don't know what your niche is. there's a couple of ways. So, right, the informational interview side of the house is where you can kind of figure out and talk to people and ask them what a day in the life of that job is like, and try and figure that out. Another way is just thinking about what your passion is. If your passion is helping organizations deal with ransomware attacks, think about what is your why, and why do you want to do a specific thing, and then figure out what job matches to that. So, I have 22 years in the Navy where I focused on a lot of training and training management and curriculum development. I also like computers. I like cybersecurity. I like IT. So a natural marriage of those two worked really well for me. I like designing solutions, kind of the design and development side of the house. So where I work at Cloud Range, I specifically manage the training networks and develop the training solutions for cybersecurity incident response teams. And that very much fulfills what my CEO calls kind of a person's highest and best use, right? What is the match between what is beneficial to the company you're working at and what your passion is? And if you can try and get those as close to alignment as possible, that's where I feel you're going to make yourselves the happiest. Going back to the organizations outside of the U.S., Tech Vets in the United Kingdom, VetSec here in the U.S., Coding for Veterans is an org in Canada that's specifically doing similar things, helping people retrain and reskill for Canada's technology sector. And Vets in Cyber in Australia was the organization I was thinking of there. All right, so that's really my big talk on soft skills. All right, first start with educating yourself, and that on the industry, and that goes and ties into your professional networking, and then interview and resume preparation. Let's talk a little bit about technical skills. So again, I'm going to lean on some of my insights over at VetSec. The first thing I think you have to answer when you're educating yourself on the industry and looking at your past experiences, whether you want to be a manager or be an individual contributor. Most of the people that are joining VetSec are looking to be individual contributors, which is great. That's where the majority of people should kind of be falling into. But you need to be an expert and decide on that field. We have a lot of resources that we provide at VetSec, discounts on a wide variety of courses, free access to some others, including a Coursera subscription that has pretty much the entire library there. But we see a lot of people that within 2 days of joining, they've put in a request for access to every single resource that's out there. You don't have time for that, right? You don't have time to try and learn everything. You need to figure out specifically what the field is you want to do and what the skill sets are that require you to get there. Immersive Labs is another great one. Thanks, Paul. So Immersive Labs has about 240 hands-on labs, and that's accesses directly through us here in the United States and Tech Vets over in the UK. Some people will say certifications don't matter. Others will say certifications do. I'll say they're like a resume. They get you to the interview. As a hiring manager at Cloud Range, when I open a position for an attack master on our cyber ranges, I get anywhere from 100 to 150 applicants. And I'm the person that's looking at all those applications and all those resumes. When I start, because we make our jobs postings through LinkedIn, I'm just going to tell you this is another point that comes back to time management. When I look at those applications on LinkedIn, I am going to look for certifications that tell me that you have a good chance of having the skill set that I need. Now, we have hired 2 attack masters that, in addition to certifications, have done home labs and projects and things like that. So we definitely scroll for that. But when I'm trying to hire somebody in the next month and I have 150 applications to get through, and then I have 2 rounds of interviews that I put them through, I don't have time to spend more than 5 minutes scrolling a LinkedIn profile. So if you have certifications, they need to be relevant to the job that you're applying for and the field that you're interested in going in, right? There is a truth behind too many certs are too many certs, right? At that point, we do look at kind of that whole paper tiger thing. But certifications really can be useful to get that foot in the door. Cynthia, I see your question, just so you know, and I will get to you, I promise. Formal education. So if you're looking at formal education, the things that I see useful are, I want to know when I hire somebody that they can not do the job, because I will say, even if it's the same tech stack, when you're coming into a different company, you're not going to know the day to day of that role, right? But I want to know that you can learn to do that job. And I want to know that you have some of the basic foundational skills that are going to be needed that I don't have time to teach you to do that job. So computer science background is always a plus, because you have demonstrated the ability to learn and learn complex languages at that point. Also, going to the WGU route, foundational knowledge in networking and scripting and or programming are always useful, regardless of what discipline of cybersecurity you look to go into. Yeah, that's kind of my piece on that. And if you want to be a leader, and this is the only time, and I'm gonna get some comments, I'm sure, but I'll tell you, your CISSP, in my opinion, again, is only useful if you're going to go be a manager. If you're looking to go into cyber and IT management, it's that inch deep, mile wide certification that is useful when you're at a higher level management position and you need to keep breadth of knowledge versus depth of knowledge. The things that I have seen lacking in leaders, both in my time in the Navy and out, is some technical skill sets and project management, right? As a leader, as a manager, a lot of your time is going to be resource forecasting, prioritization of projects, generally speaking, project management. The PMP is a wonderful cert. It teaches a lot of the formality around project scoping and planning. I would say for most people in those jobs, they don't need that depth unless they are a technical project or program manager, which is why I'll throw the Google Project Management certification up there too, because that is a great entry level to getting to PMP. And that will teach you, I'd say, 90% of the skills you would need for a day kind of manager job. Let's go ahead and go to a couple questions. So Paul, would GitHub repos on your resume help with putting best foot forward on home lab projects? Especially if I'm hiring somebody that I'm going to need a little bit of scripting or infrastructure design, right? If they're using Docker or Terraform or Kubernetes, or if they're doing scripting with PowerShell, Python, any kind of programming, absolutely. I love seeing GitHub repos. I love seeing home labs and what they've done there. They can list the tech stacks they've worked in those. That's all great stuff. And it shows that, right? I don't want to have somebody that literally lives and breathes cyber, right? I want everybody to have a life outside of their job. But if you're passionate about it and that's something you enjoy doing, and you're trying to get into the industry and that's something that you really like, I love seeing those kinds of things. This one, Paul, I'd love your feedback on too. So the question is, if someone has been a supervisor, manager, and director in most jobs all their life, what aspect of cyber would they fit in? What do you think, Paul?
Oh man, that can spin in multiple different directions.
Yeah.
So the first place that I always send anybody that comes to me that has that inclination they want to get into tech is going to be the System Nice framework. And I'm going to drop the link in chat. But looking at somebody that's been a supervisor, floor manager, you can absolutely look at positions like project manager, right? Because project manager, you're driving the project. You're not doing the quality assurance. You're not doing any of that. You're leading that team to finish that project through different phases. For that specific route, I personally would get on something like CertiProf I'll drop the link to that as well, because they have a Scrum foundational cert that you can do for free. When we talk about the SDLC, software development lifecycle, a lot of it is done through Agile Scrum with a mixture of waterfall and Kanban style. But don't limit yourself, right? So really try to find what is going to be, what matches you as a person, if that makes sense. Because you don't want to join a role that you're going to get burned out on within the next 3 to 5 months.
Yeah. Great insights there. Two things that I would suggest. So one, you can still be a leader in an area that you want to be in, right? So don't let, well, I've been a supervisor, so there has to be one discipline of cyber I need to go and vice another, because you could be a supervisor or manager in any of those. You could lead a threat intel team. You could be a SOC manager, right? There are all sorts of areas that you could go. If you don't have depth of knowledge, then you could be in that project program management side of the house. Two resources, and I'm sure we can find the links on Amazon. I'm just going to show them to you guys and stop my screen share for just a second, and then I'll go back to the slides. First one is Cybersecurity Career Master Plan. So this is a great book that will help educate you a bit on the field, different frameworks, laws, specialties, talks about the difference between formal education and certs, has some timeline stuff in here, and really what it means to be entry level. And just through my time, I only really started seriously looking to get into cybersecurity in about March of 2020. And I've had a lot of time, because of my wind down of my Navy career and the pandemic as well, to spend at home doing a lot of research on the topic and working on that professional network. But I have personally spoken to all 4 authors of the book and heard a lot of their insights about the industry. Great resource as well. And then if you're looking specifically on that supervisor manager side of the house, take a read on this. So this is Tribe of Hackers, Security Leaders. It's a Wiley book, but it really goes through a lot of different leaders in the industry, what their jobs are, what their day-to-day is, and some Q&A for them as well. Also an awesome resource for people to look at.
Those books, surprisingly, on Humble Bundle appear pretty religiously. If you're not on Humble Bundle, you can get a lot of these books for on the dime.
Yeah, absolutely great resources. Let me wrap up the slide deck really quick, and then I would love to get people on asking questions and seeing what else I can do to help out. Nicholas made a comment about, he agrees that's what CISSP is, CISSP is meant for, is management. But there are a lot of jobs that want one anyway out of ignorance. I completely agree with that. And that's something that educating those hiring managers is important. So this goes back to that network, right? When you get that job and you can have influence on what that job description, what those job requirements are, if there's fluff on there, please take it out. I really appreciate the comment, because you brought up something in my mind that I forgot to mention, which is if you're in the military and a lot of people just in general, and you see a list of requirements, I'm guilty of it too, right? I read these job requirements. I'm like, oh, well, that requires 10 pieces of flare and I only have 8, so I can't apply for that because I don't meet the requirements. They are requirements. That's unfortunately not true when it comes to job postings. I will tell you, if you read the job description and you can do the job in your mind, and you have 50% of what's listed under required, make your resume, tailor it to fit the job, and go apply for it. If somebody's going to throw out an individual contributor job applicant because they don't have a CISSP, well, then you probably didn't want to be in that group anyways, frankly. If that's the company that's going to throw those out, I know plenty of people where I read job descriptions and it says they have to have a bachelor's degree, and they are completely capable of doing those roles without one. So, help us be that change in the industry and get rid of those requirements that aren't really requirements. And if you're trying to get in, apply anyways. Absolutely. Yeah, Shelly, you're absolutely right. Part of that problem. And this goes back to HR is reviewing those resumes and matching to the requirements, but when you're in the industry and you're looking to hire somebody on your team, when you're a leader in that group, you will have influence on HR for what the requirements are in the front end. And hopefully they aren't just tossing them when they don't meet all those requirements. I know a lot of places, even my current role as the VP of Training and Technology at Cloud Range, I didn't meet all the requirements. I managed to get my foot in the door to an interview. And then I demonstrated that even though I didn't meet all of their requirements, I could do the job and I could do the job well. So where to get the technical knowledge if you're looking to do this? Google Project Management, right? The Google Grow with Google partners. There's a lot of them out there that can offer these certifications or these certificate programs free. Google's partnered with Coursera for that. So if you have a Coursera subscription, you can also access those. edX and their programs, some of the open college initiatives, right? Like I'm in a CS50 course at Harvard right now, thanks to edX and the open education initiatives. So great ways to learn skills that way, and pretty low cost to pay to have the verified certificate if you want that. I do have some other resources here, right? So formal education. I think computer science is still the way to go if you're looking to go to a formal education in today's day and age. Already discussed a bit about certifications. I am going to do a quick hit on cybersecurity boot camps here. Really, the biggest thing I'm going to say is educate yourself. So I'm going to tell everybody that's listening in right now, if you're spending $18,000 to walk away with a CompTIA Security Plus certificate, whether you're spending the $18,000 or the government is on your behalf, you're wasting your time. Right? Industry recognition of the boot camps is important. A lot of them don't actually get you certifications that are industry recognized. They just prepare you for them. Cost is another factor to think about. Even if it is free to you, your time is not free to you. So spending 20 weeks to work on a CompTIA Security Plus probably is not a good use of your time. And then the last thing, ask about graduation rates, ask about placement rates, and ask about meaningful placement. And when I say meaningful placement, if you're taking a boot camp that is telling you that you're going to be a penetration tester on the back end, look at boot camps. There are some out there that directly won't bring a student in unless they already have a job lined up for them on the back end, right? Where the employer looks at the curriculum and says, yeah, if somebody graduates this, they'd be good for this role. So if you have somebody, I will hire them. There's some great boot camps that do that. But look at meaningful placement rates. If you go through a program that's titled penetration tester, and then they tell you halfway through that you need to start applying for IT help desk positions, you're probably going to feel misled in some way, shape, or form. And that said, and Paul's been linking a lot of great resources here in the chat. What if I told you it's all free or low cost? It just takes owning your destiny and owning your transition into the industry. So let's talk some of the free resources. And Paul, if you have more than what I've listed here, there's dozens. These are the ones that came to mind when I was prepping this. So here's the caveat. You have to be disciplined, right? You have to make a plan. Don't join an organization that provides you 30 discounts and sign up for all 30 of them, because you don't have time for that. You have to be deliberate about what you're doing to get into the industry. So I will talk about a strong foundation in computer networking and a strong foundation in a scripting language. Learn one of them. Python, Go, Rust, PowerShell, one of the four. Great options. Professor Messer has all their videos online. So if you're looking to gain foundational knowledge in CompTIA's A+ Network Plus Security Plus, I love that curriculum as well. And all the videos are online. So if you like, oh, there we go. There's all the resources. Thanks, Paul. If you like watching video and having video-based learning, go to Professor Messer. If you like reading and doing it that way, because everyone does learn a little bit differently, but if you like a little bit more reading and a little bit more hands-on, please go support my friend Dennis over at Hoppers Roppers. He has made some amazing content aligned to A+, Network Plus, and Security Plus. Not necessarily you'll pass the cert if you just do that course, but I'd say pretty darn close. And that is the curriculum that we use in VetSec as well in our courses. But he's put together some amazing free content there. If you're looking to learn Linux, which is a needed skill set still in the industry, I'll tell you, we have SOC teams that come in to do missions at Cloud Range, and they're asking, well, do you have a cybersecurity attack that only affects our Windows machines? Because we don't have somebody here who's comfortable at the Linux command line. Over the wire is a great one. You're going to beat your head against the wall a little bit, and you're going to be Googling a lot, but it's teaching you how to research as well as the command line. Try Hack Me and Hack the Box have some great paths in there. The Hack the Box Academy, that's been out for just over a year now, I think. They've got some great boxes there. And then I'm going to do a throwback to TCM Academy. So the original founder of VetSec, Keith Adams, is the CEO and owner of TCM Academy. They have great curriculum around network penetration testing and malware analysis. Matt Kiley is the author of that course as well. And there's some great content there. That's all low cost, right? $30 a course. I think the whole PNPT cert with the training is like $200 to $300. Not bad, especially since you can pay for one course at a time as you go through. And there's a lot of partners that offer discounts. Military, teachers, first responders, I think TCM gives discounts for all of those groups. And then VetSec. We strive our hardest to work with good partners out there that will provide discounted or free training. So we are connected with World of Haiku. If you like gamified learning, we're connected with TCM. We give away one free SANS course every month on a scholarship basis, which is a huge offering, and a huge thanks to the SANS team for that. The Veteran Digital Cyber Academy through Immersive Labs with their 240 hands-on labs, right? All great things from all of these organizations. And, I can't speak enough about the other programs out there like Onward to Opportunity and IVMF, all sorts of places. So yeah, a lot of resources out there. I will say, the benefit of going a more formal path is that it's a path and it's laid out for you, and they're going to tell you due dates, and you're going to just, follow along and do them. When you go the free or low cost route, you definitely have to be disciplined. So, my encouragement to everybody that's looking to get into the field as a first action item is start connecting with people that are here. I know Paul dropped my LinkedIn in the chat. If you're a military veteran, doesn't matter if you're United States or not, you're welcome in VetSec. There are some membership caveats there, but I would say 90% of the military veterans in the world are eligible to join. Please, connect with us anytime, connect with people here as well. And we've got actually about 12 minutes. So I'm happy to, yes, Gregor, German military as well. I'm happy to help in any way I can. My contact information is here on the site or on the slide deck. LinkedIn and Twitter are probably, and Mastodon, all three of them. All good places. Cynthia, unfortunately, VetSec is only for veterans. That said, anybody can connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to help outside of my role at VetSec.
Is the IDF and ISF still allowed to be a part of VetSec?
Which ones, Paul?
The Israeli Defense Force and Security Force, being how they're more patriots. They don't really consider veteran status.
So the requirements for VetSec is anyone that's in the 14 Eyes Alliance countries. So that is specifically Australia, Canada, New Zealand, United Kingdom, US, Denmark, Netherlands, France, Norway, Germany, Belgium, Spain, Sweden, and Italy. Those are the 14 that we accept members from right now. That said, Jeff, connect with me on LinkedIn. I can get you in touch with most, if not all, of those resources outside of VetSec myself.
There's some other things too that I think it's just because the platform and the time limit. The Mandiant CTI platform is another great thing that VetSec has privilege to. And
yeah, that one I'll caveat. So we partnered when Mandiant launched their academy, and we were able to give 50 people access to their CTI curriculum. That was a one-time thing, Paul.
Okay, well, looks like I'm gonna have to reach out to him and see if I can get it over at Whole Cyber again to keep it floating.
Yeah. That's a great thing about the like we talked about earlier on how small the community is. If you go to the VetSec webpage, there's a section on partners and sponsors, which will link you over to tech vets and those organizations in Australia and Canada as well. We all meet, we all talk, we all share resources. Paul and I have been on calls throughout the years talking about resources that we have in our respective organizations as well. So there's always ways to help people. Jeff, there's some great resources on CTI out there too. Please, again, reach out to me on LinkedIn or Twitter or Mastodon, and I can help you find some of those as well. With that said, if anybody has any questions and wants to throw them in the chat, or if they want to come on video and talk, I'm happy to do either or all of the above. We've still got a little bit of time before the next speaker.
Yep, that's a good call out, Jeff. Jeff is one of our Whole Cyber graduates this year, and so originally when I started Whole Cyber, before I even started, it was veterans breaking into IT and cybersecurity, which is just mentorship stuff. Obviously, VetSec had it for the veteran side. Tech Vets had it for our UK, Europe side, and with Whole Cyber, we figured, hey, let's cover everybody in between that's not covered by an organization. ICS, that's one thing that Tom also forgot to mention is we're trying our best. I pulled Tom on to the ICS community of practice last year, and we're really trying to get them to shake their old mindset, because there's so much a maintainer can do within OT cyber operational technology that you don't need a damn 4-year electrical engineering degree for.
Yeah, absolutely. I did 22 years in the Navy, and my only formal education for operating nuclear reactors on submarines was the Navy schooling. No degree related, no degree required. And I learned a lot about the OT side of the house. And over at Cloud Range, we're working on developing training specifically to work on that. There's a lot that we have learned, from the OT teams not really having a good understanding of cyber, right? They understand how to keep their equipment maintained and operating. But there's going to be an explosion of, especially with Colonial, with the water treatment incident down in Florida that Dragos responded to. There's going to be a whole explosion into the IoT OT field, and there is going to be needed experts on there. So if that's something that interests you, whether it's, logistics and manufacturing, OT equipment that works there, like running the conveyor belts in the Amazon warehouses. Yeah, Jeff, absolutely. It's all about availability there, right? You can't shut down an entire output stream to deal with a cybersecurity incident. You're trying to keep it all running and keep the money flowing at that org. But whether it's things like that manufacturing and logistics, or, water treatment, or oil, gas, electric, I really see in the next, it's starting now, there's going to be an explosion of talent needed to fill those gaps. So If you want to get technical on OTICS, right, learning Modbus and the other OTICS protocols, go do some research on the Purdue network model, because there's going to even be a need at the big firms, the big consulting firms like EY and Deloitte and Accenture, on how to help those teams build those networks and architect those, and how to get them, able to be secure in that. We find a lot of times where IT teams don't have good asset management over the OT stuff that's on the network. The OT teams don't have any idea on the incident response side of the house, and those teams may not even know who each other are. So a lot of room to grow in that area. I've got a link for you guys as well that has some great training. Let's see. So if you're looking in the home lab side of the house, there we go. All right, there's a GitHub link to a company called Fortified, and if you go to their website themselves, they talk about a lot of what they're doing.
Funny thing with that, though, I've used that a lot because the name of the game for Graphics is keeping the chem lab from blowing up.
Yep.
But for the veterans and the mill spouses that are in the audience, if you find yourself talking to a predatory organization like an academy or a boot camp that just doesn't seem, it seems suspect, definitely reach out to VetSec or Whole Cyber. We have a good lasting relationship with helping people file whistleblower. A lot of companies that got audited in 2022, and there's a lot of companies getting audited this year from VA specifically on fraudulent use of VA GI Bill dollars. So the more you come forward or rely on organizations like VetSec, the better.
Yeah, I did a public service announcement in VetSec just a few days ago and said, don't sign up for any kind of cyber or IT boot camp without at least tossing the what I'm signing up for in the Slack and letting everybody comment on it. If you do connect with me on LinkedIn, I'll just tell everybody here, I submitted a FOIA request a few days ago to the VA seeking enrollment, graduation, and placement rates for every cybersecurity, really every vet tech approved educational provider that the VA gives money to on the vet tech side of the house. And I'm just going to make that public when it comes in. So I'll share that on LinkedIn with everybody, and you can look at those yourself and come to your own conclusions. I'm willing to bet that I'm going to see a near 100% graduation rate and a very low meaningful employment rate. I bet I'm going to see a lot of, I took this advanced, super awesome pen tester program and I'm working as a level 1 help desk technician. I bet that's what we're going to see, but I look forward to the data so I can share. SANS training and education is awesome, Salim. Don't pay for it yourself. Get your employer to do it. Get a work study is a great option through SANS. You only pay about 40% of the course, and you are basically a moderator, teacher's aide for the instructor. That helps on the professional networking side because all the students are going to know you as a TA and you're going to get a closer time with the instructor. And then through VetSec, we subsidize that work study cost as well.
And for non-veterans or military spouses, if you have an associate's, you can also enroll into their undergraduate certificate program, which can easily be covered by a small student loan, not a overzealous one, or even do their bachelor's program.
Yeah. If you're looking for their full program, their whole undergrad is great. If you're specifically looking to go cyber, if you're looking or you're not entirely sure yet, I'll still say I think a comp sci program is a great way to go. I think the GIAC certs hold a lot of weight with the other certifying bodies. People definitely look at SANS as a respected organization out there. Another org I would consider not getting certs from, and maybe this has changed recently, but I don't think so. EC Council, I think, is still dealing with a lot of fallout from their whole thing.
There is. So sadly, with Boost to Cyber, I'll have to get CEH again because I will be teaching CEH the way that it should be taught, not the here's how to take a test.
Yeah.
EC Council for like the last 5 years, one of the reasons why their reputation is so bad is because they like to plagiarize industry leaders' content.
Yep.
So take that for what it is when you're looking at these certs. If you're looking at DoD FedRAMP, understand that CYSA is equivalent to CEH for the 8570 stuff and is $900 cheaper.
Awesome. Well, I'll just end saying thank you very much for everybody that jumped in, and thanks for the questions. And again, reach out to me in any of my roles, Cloud Range, VetSec, or personally on LinkedIn, Twitter, or Mastodon, and I'm happy to continue to help in any way I can. So thanks, everybody. I'll actually be speaking again next week really quick in a 5 to 10 minute talk on my role and what that entails with Boots to Books next Monday, I think. So if you're around, check that out too. Thanks, everybody.